is our first series, Liam, of sort of get behind the scenes, get to know the riders with sponsor. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us today to sort of share some of your experiences. So obviously you're a great rider, one of the best riders in the world I have here in Tom's notes, which I agree with. Sponsor SILT rider, which is amazing. I think I first became aware of you whenever it was you were doing the Dues of Hazard stuff. And there was you and Joe Barnes and a couple of other ones, and it was kind of like it was class. You're watching those videos and just thinking that's how you spend the day. I think you've got some really, really good results. The one I think that stood out for me is, you can obviously give us your opinion on, but last year was the Mega. Like for us, like the Mega's always been this big, like mad, crazy race, and to even feature anywhere near the top 10, you were a very good rider, and you're super, super, super fit. I mean, what would you say was your highlight last year, or highlights last year?
Yeah, probably was the Mega. I did the Mountain of Hell the week before, and I was third at that, which was kind of also a highlight. Because I think the Mountain of Hell it's very similar to the Mega, but it's kind of nastier. Like it's got nastier climbs, it's got nastier descents, it's got a nastier glacier. So it was quite nice to do well at that, and then the following week, obviously the Mega. So I've been like 5th to 10th at the Mega. I don't know, like 5 times. So every year I'm like, this is the year I'm going to be like podium or like win, or So it was good. Like makes the one better.
Yeah. If you had to describe the Mega Avalanche as a race, how would you describe it? Because it's long, isn't it?
It's long. I feel like it's kind of has everything mountain biking in it. It's got like everything you could think of. It's got like riding on snow, rocks, like bike park turns, natural stuff in the woods. It's got climbs. It's got sections of everything all incorporated into one race. So it's like kind of complete mountain biking to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What would you didn't record your max speed, did you? Just out of curiosity?
No, I didn't actually. Although I know on the glacier people were doing over 100k an hour.
Wow.
But I don't know I didn't record my max. Probably not as fast as the boys who actually.
Yeah, but you survived. Those guys are still sliding down the glacier now as we speak.
Yeah, I know.
Without their bikes.
Yeah, that's funny. I feel like that's more dangerous. If your bike catches the snow and your pedal clips you or something.
The amount of videos after the Mega every year is it's just bodies and bikes everywhere. It's like they're not even attached to their bikes and nobody knows where it is. And trying to bunny hop guys at, like you say, 50 mile an hour. It's just insane race. I did a quick stat check. I don't know if you know this one or not, but do you know when the last time a British rider finished top 2 in the Mega Avalanche since 1995?
I don't know. I didn't know if there
never. Never. Yeah. So it's been like most of them are Europeans, obviously. But the best position before that was Dan Atherton. He came third 2012 and 2013. Remember watching a documentary about that? Yeah. So you're the highest ranked British person ever, which is pretty cool. It's good wee stat for you. I know you have to stick that in your poster.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're an amazing rider, obviously, Liam, and the finish like sort of that consistently with those big races is really, really cool. So from a training perspective, how much would I need to train to beat Liam in mountain biking?
Well, I already know you're an absolute machine. So
that's all eyes.
The amount that you're already training.
Yeah. So like how much would you train a week? What does it take to kind of be at that level?
There's been, to be honest, I probably train a bit less now than I have in the past. But I think I've tackled it from a very uneducated sort of manner in the past, and I've just kind of from a kid growing up, like swimming, I would swim before and after school, so it was like almost you train twice a day most days. And then I think I took that a little bit into like while I was studying, I would just be I would be training all the time. Like I'd swim in the morning, I'd go to the gym in the afternoon, like I'd try and play squash with a friend at lunchtime, and then like the next day I'd do 3 activities again, and one of them would be on a bike. So I think that's probably given me a really good base, although at times probably in the past it's hindered me because I've been so tired I've overtrained basically. And then now I probably train like either 4 or 5 times a week. Really intense training when I do train. Whereas in the past I'd have done a day's filming and then gone to the gym or gone and done intervals afterwards. Whereas now I try to do train a little bit more purposefully. So it's actually it's tapered down, but I think the overtraining in the past has probably benefited me now.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because you probably built up a really good base, and then now you're just kind of
Yeah.
like refining the skill set. Whenever you say training, is it just all time a mountain bike, or still do some gym stuff?
In the winter, twice a week, and then in the summer, maybe twice a month, just between races.
Yeah.
And it's more just maintenance in the summer. Even just like little bits of strength work and maybe muscles that you don't really work when you're riding. So I tend to start getting like, I've got like a bit of a sore left knee that I get like if I don't stretch enough and I don't do any strength work, I start to get a sore left knee. And it's just, I just know that now from over time. Like, it's not even a proper injury, it just gets sore. So yeah, like in the summer it's more just maintaining that, and then in the winter I try and actually build some strength and power. And then I do intervals as well, like at least a couple of times a week. So
yeah. What do you think the connection with fitness and skill is then? So for me, I kind of see mountain biking as like, say enduro type mountain biking, where it's you need fitness just to have that, to be over the bike and the sprint and the recover and all of that stuff. What do you think the split is between skill and fitness between like really good riders?
I think once you get to a certain level, it's almost like two separate entities. Like I think as you're learning to ride, obviously the better your fitness is, the more you can ride, and therefore the better your skills will be. So the two kind of are almost one, like with what younger riders or people who've not been riding that long. But I think once you get to a high level, it's almost like everyone's pretty fit and everyone's pretty skillful. But you see certain riders like I know an example for me would be, and it's maybe a bit harsh, but and his fitness has obviously improved loads, is Alex Storr, who rides for Forbidden. Like I rode with him a few years ago and I was just like, how is he not winning every single race? But he was only maybe 19 at the time or 18 at the time. And now his fitness is obviously, like, I know I spoke to him again and I rode with him again last October, November. And I know he was training really hard, and now it's really starting to show, like at the EWS. I think he was 10th or 11th at the first EWS. So his fitness is obviously really caught up. But like, you know, a few years ago, you could look at him and be like, he should win every race based on his skills, but his fitness just needs to catch up. And then there's probably riders for maybe the opposite way around. So
it is interesting, I think, how the sports evolve. Because whenever I was a kid, like I didn't start to do proper, I say like enduro type, all mountain type mountain biking clubs in my 20s. And for me, I wasn't based at a location where you had access to that. So I didn't really know it existed at my age. So I'm 38. So it was kind of, my background was cross country and road cycling as a kid, and then discovered early 20s enduro type riding. And it was like, this is like, I should have been doing this since I was 12. Like, this is like amazing. Like, I can't believe this is a proper sport. But even then, it's evolved so much, because you see the pros, I mean, warming up properly before stages, downhill, they're on the rollers and all that stuff. So it's interesting you're saying that, because I think there's now the levels like so high for top riders. It's like, unless you're doing that, like you say, you don't ever really get into the top band if you're not doing the right training, warm up, sleep, nutrition, all of that stuff. You know, it is incredible how it's changed over time.
Yeah, and then I think, even saying that, I think you can be doing all that and still not even be at the top. Like, whereas I think, maybe 8 or 10 years ago, if you were doing all of that, you would be like in the top properly. But now I feel like there's, you know, in every discipline, there's 150 people doing it properly. So you have to be like, really on it.
Yeah, from a physiological point of view, so I'm nerdy with all this stuff. But I mean, see, from a like nutrition perspective, whenever you're like training and racing and stuff, and even like recovery foods and stuff, is that something you're into sort of generally, or do you see it as having a big impact?
I kind of just eat almost whatever I feel like, but obviously within reason. Like, I eat really well, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then kind of through the day, if I'm hungry or if I'm training, I'll just eat, like, you know, I don't mind eating if I have to have a Mars bar, if I'm riding. And like, some people will avoid dairy or like won't eat like a bit of chocolate or whatever, but I kind of just think everything in moderation is okay. And as long as you're not like hoovering up like McDonald's for dinner every day or something, you know, something crazy like that, then I think it's kind of relatively common sense. Like, eat food that's food, don't eat food that's chemicals,
Mhm.
If you had to recommend somewhere that you think you can't wait to get back there, you're stoked to go and ride again. It's like I want to plan a trip to this place, and it's like the best place in the world. Where would you go?
Some of the best trips I've had, like Japan was amazing. Going somewhere that's like a little bit, maybe not super famous for riding, but has good mountains and does have some infrastructure. Like in Japan, there are quite a few, like a handful of decent bike parks that are quite quiet but quite well maintained. So the trails are amazing. And like, I don't know if it's a little bit of expectation versus reality. Like when you go to the Alps and you go to Morzine, like everyone talks about it, so you expect it to be amazing, and then it is good. Whereas when you go to Japan, you're like, oh, I don't know, like, is this going to be good, or what are
Mhm.
we going to get here? And then when it is amazing, you almost appreciate it all the more.
Absolutely.
Um,
I'm curious. Now, I haven't seen that one, so I'm curious to
yeah,
see what it looks like.
that's an old
Because
one.
when you say Japan and like mountain biking, do they go hand in hand? Probably not.
Yeah,
But it's like
well,
I'm curious. It's like I just see you coming down these trails, like crashing through bamboos, and
that's exactly what it was.
is
We
it?
did
Is
actually ride in
it
some
right?
bamboo. Yeah, it was cool. I always wanted to go to Japan to ski, and then yeah, just don't really know why. Like in the end, we were just like, oh well, we better go to Japan. Actually, you mentioned Romania. That was actually really good. Like we went there really unsure of what we were going to get. We didn't know if we'd just be right with like maybe we're just going to be riding walkers paths, which would have been fine. But then actually there were a few bike parks that were hardly ridden. Almost seems like bizarre that they've put so much effort into it for the number of riders there are. But yeah, like really, really amazing. It is worth venturing off the beaten path, I think.
Yeah, I did say this at the start, which is like I'm definitely doing the wrong job. I mean, your life sounds way better than all this
Oh,
mountain biking, all these cool places. Well, now it's from a rider's point of view. Like, what tips would you give someone that wanted to get faster? So say me. So I am
yeah.
50% behind Liam, and I want to get faster. Like, what tips would you give on the bike? So not like a fitness thing.
Yeah.
What would you say? What would be the
Uh,
key things?
I think well, obviously said not fitness, but I do actually think for 95% of people, if they want to do a race and go faster, fitness is the easiest thing to improve. But I think for the majority of people who just mountain bike a bit and then race, if they just did like even just search like Red Bull website and search up some like interval sessions, if they just did that once a week, that would make a huge difference. And then I think if it's more skills related, if it's not fitness related, there's a few things you can do. You can practice like purposeful like skills, set up some cones down a forest road and just practice riding around them smoothly, like with good body position. And then you can think about your sort of riding position and technique while you're riding on trails, like actually give it focused thought on some short trails. And then you can do timed runs as well. That is also quite good. And doing timed runs on the same track over and over. So if you pick a track, say, and like, right, I'm going to do 4 timed runs on this, and just be really thoughtful about not necessarily where you've made a mistake. Like if you make a mistake, just don't worry about it, but almost be thoughtful about, oh, I could have gone faster around that corner, or I could have had better exit speed there, or oh, I'm a bit leaning off the back into that rut, and so my front wheel's wandering, and then I have to brake. Kind of more things like that, like not necessarily focusing on mistakes you make, more focusing on bits that you can ride better and faster. I think that can make a big difference. Just you really get a feel for riding a trail well and fast when you do some timed runs, which I think a lot of people maybe don't do. Another thing that you could do is get like if there is a good coach nearby, like I don't know in Northern Ireland, I don't know if like who it would be, or like just
Yeah,
Colin
Colin coaches. Yeah, Colin
yeah,
Ross, who's
Colin,
one of our
yeah,
other sponsored riders. Yeah, Colin's a very good coach,
yeah,
actually.
yeah. If you did a
Good
day with
rider.
Colin, yeah, that would probably be the first thing, I guess.
Yeah, I sort of did touch on it a wee bit there as well, which was I came into enduro type mountain biking later than most people, just because I just didn't live anywhere near those trails. So this is
Yeah,
probably more aimed at kids coming through the system. What would
yeah.
you do differently that you would advise the young rippers coming through the system, that the mistakes
Yeah.
you've kind of learned that you would change?
A tricky thing where I am is that we've always had the Fort William downhill track.
It's
So when I was a kid, we'd just go there like
uh,
every weekend and every chance we had. So we all got quite good at like that real one specific type of track where it's like a bit fast, a bit rocky, kind of loose gravel.
Hmm.
Um,
Which is
and
probably good for skills. Like that's probably good for just
yeah,
getting a feel for the bike, isn't it? But
yeah,
carry on.
it is
So
quite good.
yeah.
But I ended up, although most of the tracks that I ride now are kind of these like nadgery, rooty, sort of tight through the woods trails, I ended up being like a bit lacking in that area because while I was a kid and like really learning and establishing my skill set, I was just riding this like 30-mile-an-hour rock garden day after day and like learning to do that fast. And I never really learned to like drop a shoulder and like weave around a tree, whereas like people who live in Innerleithen, that's kind of all they're doing. That was the thing I probably lacked the most, was variety. I was just doing the same thing over and over and over.
Hmm.
Um, but that was partly just there weren't really, that was kind of just the best place to ride a bike here. Like most of the trails that exist now are there because me and my friends have built, like people my age have built them. So there was a handful of trails built by folks sort of 10 years older than me, but the majority are from us that have. So now I guess the like Sorley, who also rides SILT, he does have a really good assortment of trails. Like he can go and practice going 30 miles an hour down Never Strange Fort Round downhill track, but he can also go in the woods and ride like some slippery, tight, slow, or steep trails.
Hmm.
And actually, Sorley and his friends, they've become quite good at building like jumps. So there's like a sand quarry. So
Right.
they've kind of like, there is kind of a little bit of everything here now, and we'll have a pump track soon as well. So that's also good for developing skills.
Yeah, interesting because remember, you said Colin Rosser, one of our other sponsored athletes. I remember he did the EWS for maybe a year, 1 or 2 years. And
Yeah.
remember him saying it was one of the tracks was there was barely any pedaling in it at all. It was all kind of just trying to pump off stuff. And he
Yeah.
said he spent for months beforehand just going this pump track just to get used to
Oh
just this
yeah.
movement on the bike because you weren't pedaling,
Yeah.
you were just on top of the bike just to try and hone that sensation in. And he said whenever he
Yeah.
went and did it, it was just like that, just a bit faster, obviously. It's as you say, I mean, that's good advice. Colin's doing it, you're saying that. So it's obviously,
Yeah.
if you can get those skill sets, those sort of free, because pumping's kind of free speed, isn't it? You can
Yeah.
just use your weight and use your bike to get a boost off everything.
Yeah.
Kind of nail that up.
I mean, it's fitness as well. Like that stuff is almost free fitness as
Yeah.
well. Like, you don't really
It's
need
like
to.
doing squat jumps or
Yeah.
that sort of exercise, isn't it? Over the
Yeah.
bike, squatted down and
Exactly.
just like pushing
Yeah.
away, or like a fast leg press or something.
Yeah. Exactly. It's
Yeah. So advice for kids then is just get loads of variety then. So anybody coming through the
yeah.
system, it's just mixing up the drills,
Yeah.
terrains and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Liam, just one more question, then we're going to go to like a bit of a quick fire thing for a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Goals for the season? What do you expect this year? What's up there?
Well, I do want to win the Mega Avalanche,
Yeah. Right.
which is obviously a bit of a shout because it's a little bit of a carnage race. But yeah, I've been kind of creeping up the results each time, so to go one better at that would be good. And then I actually was wanting to race the e-bike World Series,
Cool.
but in February they announced that it was going to be restricted to only 30 riders and you had to be on a UCI team. So kind of last minute, like that kind of snookered me a little bit on my plans for the year. So I'm kind of still trying to work out exactly what I'm going to do to fill that void that I thought I was going to be doing.
E-bike World Championships, is it more fitness based than skill,
No,
or would it be
it
similar?
was just like enduro racing. But so last year, the reason I was quite enthusiastic about it is that last year the e-bike races generally would do sort of 12 stages instead of 4 or 5. Sort of what the EWS would have been sort of in the past, like sort of these technical or long or sort of hikey path type stages. And yeah, it's like a big day with loads of riding. And yeah, so that quite appealed to me. So hopefully that's maybe something for next year, if depending on how it all goes. That's maybe, but that is something I'd like to do, is do the e-bike, like sort of. But I want to do. I'll do the Hard Rock race in the UK as well. That's quite a good one. And there's a trans race I want to do as well. So that'll be a bit of a target for August as well. And then we've also got 2. It's not really racing, but I've got 2 big video projects as well. So another Search for the Slop film, and we're also going to go to Eastern Europe again and make another sort of 30-minute long film over there in like Slovakia and Bosnia sort of area. And we've done a bit of scouting and think there should be trails. So that's also another bit of another goal. And then there'll be some UK races and other bits and pieces slotted in amongst it.
All right, cool. That's good. We'll keep an eye out for that one. Liam, just some quick fire questions just to finish up. Like I say, all in the name of good fun. So you ready? Ready for one? First one?
Yeah.
Best mountain bike rider of all time?
Sam Hill.
Sam Hill, right. Clips or flats?
Clips for me.
Best grips in the market?
Renthal push on ultra tacky with no clamps.
Yeah, right, old school. Yeah,
they're really good.
Yeah. Best tire setup?
I'm generally a big fan of downhill tires, so I've got Schwalbe Magic Mary downhill tires, front and rear.
All right, last question. Who's going to win the Mega Avalanche this year?
Well, hopefully. I don't know. Like, we need to see who's there. I feel like
it's Liam. Come on.
I feel like last year, if Damien Otton had not ruined his bike, he probably was going to win quite easily. So
yeah,
maybe he'll be back for vengeance, and he's probably be foolish to bet against him, to be honest. But you never know.
All right, cool. All right, Liam, that was all the questions there. Liam, thank you very much for joining us today, just to chop through some of the stuff. It's all pretty cool. And good luck with the season. And we'll obviously keep an eye on it and support you everywhere we can. Everything we talked about, videos and links and stuff, we'll chuck in the bottom. So anybody can click in and see what Japan looks like. Brilliant. Thank you, mate.
It's fun. Cool. Cheers.
No worries. Thanks, man.
I'll stop that recording.